as I find it, that is. All right, we'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, we live, baby.
Yo, hold up. Don't got mom spaghetti on me. Yo, tonight we got to recap some championship games. Ooh. Lamar Jackson, Baltimore Ravens, where did it all go wrong? Detroit Lions, are you just a little bit shady? Yo, I got with me the one and only D.A. Bourne, New Jeru's in the building, including Millville, including T-Deck, the even kill, the rational, the intelligent, that don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
Exactly.
The one and only Mr. Logic.
You're Scuddy.
And I am not here for the games. I'm not here for Joel Embiid's bullshit. I am 2-5. Collectively. Yes. You are now listening to the sound of Sports Reports is Ordered. So let's get this thing started. So, we start this thing off with a thing called Get It Off My Chest. We take a sports issue. It doesn't have to be negative. Mine is. But it doesn't have to be negative. It's just something that perturbed us a little bit or something that grabbed our attention. So as I was sitting around the other day, everybody's in football mode, but you know, this is Sports Reports as Ordered, not Football Reports as Ordered. So I was catching a little basketball. I flipped it on, and then as I turned it on, I heard we just got late word that Joel Embiid is not playing tonight. So this man has not played in Denver since 2019. He just had Joel Embiid Jokic in his house 2 weeks ago. But the Denver fans can't get to see it. So that's his 11th game that he's missed this year. Now, we know the new rule, 65 games to get all NBA, MVP, all that kind of stuff. What if he hurts his ankle? He going to be complaining if he don't win the MVP, right? After he chose to sit out 11 games. Now, I think he got hurt for one of the games or two of the games, but not all 11. Not this game in Denver, but it brought me up to something that Sam Vecini said earlier today about Tyrese Halliburton, and it's got me thinking because Tyrese Halliburton's missed about roughly 13 games or so. So he's on a real tight window for the rest of the season as far as all NBA. This is his contract year. So super max, $41 million on the table potentially. And if he misses these 5 games, he's not going to get any of that. I have a problem with it from the standpoint of don't let it affect his money. But if you're going to miss half the season, if you're going to miss 20 games, if you're going to miss 25 games, maybe I shouldn't vote you for an award over someone who has a similar season and has been doing it all year. That sounds right to me because, you know, Tyrese Halliburton is having the best season of his career, averaging 12 assists or so. So he should be rewarded. But the rule is not intended to hurt Tyrese Halliburton. The rule is intended to hurt people like the reigning MVP, Joel Embiid, who chooses to sit on his ass in the middle of a marquee matchup talking about he got soreness. I wake up with soreness every day. You know, I'm sure old man LeBron is sore. And he ain't even missing this many games. So this is my get it off my chest telling Joel Embiid to shit or get off the pot. Pass the trophy, son. Like, I don't get it.
Yo, it's because the owners, man. Like the owners were charging so much for these tickets for these marquee matchups, and then they were finding out that guys weren't playing because the postseason is more important, the rest is more important. I used to say it all the time. It was like just have them practice less. Like I'm pretty sure the games are tough and they're fast, and these guys are just ultra athletic and athletes and just very dynamic altogether. But in the same sense, it's like okay, well, you don't practice for 2 days. Let the soreness go away so you can play this game. That and now people know this. Use the whole, this might be the one game a year family can go to, and I understand that. I understand, but it's like the fact that everybody who's at this game, no matter if it's the first time you're able to go or you've gone to 10 games, if you're going to charge me for the fact that X player is showing up, then there should be an encouragement for the team to be like, listen, you got to play because this ticket last week versus Charlotte was $125. And now Phoenix, we in town, that same ticket is $375. So, like, it's you need to be here.
Yo, for real.
For that experience.
When I was living in Colorado, I took my ex-wife's uncle to an NFL game. He said he had never been to an NFL game. So the Cleveland Browns came to town. And we were sitting about 4 rows up from one of the end zones. And I paid $40 a piece for those tickets. 2 weeks later, America's team came through. And the standing room tickets were $500. You know what I mean? So
the marquee matters.
Right. This is the thing, and in the NFL, I get it, right? The last game of the season, you got your playoff bid secure. I understand, hey, I'm going to get my guys some rest or whatever. But even then, I'm like, play a quarter or something, or play like, treat it like preseason, play 2 possessions or something, give the fans something. But when I look at the NBA, I just see, I don't even know if load management works. Like I'm trying to think about this. Like, the Bucks won the title in 2021. I don't know if Giannis sat out 20 games.
I don't think there's a science holistically to the load management effectiveness or not. I think it's just individual how that player feels that day. Because if you need to take this many breaks to hopefully play the 4 rounds of the playoffs from April to June, the likelihood of you playing every important game April to June isn't better. If you have to rest in January, you have to rest 3 or 4 games in February, you have to rest in March, then what is the likelihood of you being able to make it April through June? It might be even more physically demanding because you're playing with 1 day's rest. You're playing against the same guy defending you. And if you go a 7-game series, that's like 7. I think you're playing about 7 games and about 12 days, give or take. Like from the first game.
Yeah.
Because now with every team having private jets, you might play your first game in Phoenix, and then your next game or games 2, 3, and 4 are in Memphis. You fly after the game in Phoenix, land in Memphis, check your hotel, get your 1 day, and then you're playing the following night because like the whole team got there 5 hours after your last game ended. So it's gonna be more of a grind then. So if you can't do it when you have 2 games and a 5-day, 6-day window in the regular season, I don't know if it's going to be effective for you as a player in the playoffs.
And that's why for me, and maybe I'm a little old school in my thinking, I admit that happens to me sometimes, but I'm like, if you want this award, you'll play. If this all NBA means that much to you, unless you're for real injured, it shouldn't even be a conversation. Like Joel Embiid, it's January 29th right now. And the season started October, like mid-October into the 20th.
Mid to late October, yeah.
You should not have missed 11 games already if you're not straight up injured. You know what I mean? Like if it was March 1st, okay, I can buy you missing 11 games. But we're talking about not even February yet.
Not even at the All-Star break. You play 50 games before the All-Star break, and you already missed 11, and we're not even at the All-Star break yet.
Right. But yet, if he does, and knock on wood, because I don't want him to get injured, but if he does hurt his ankle and miss 10 games, when we get to May, I don't want to hear I'm the rightful MVP. Like, I led the league in scoring, or I did this, my defense, X, Y. No, you weren't here.
They're out in the second round of the playoffs anyway. So he's gonna have an MVP season, and they're gonna be out in the second round of playoffs again because they haven't done anything to. They don't look like a better team than they were last year. So he's just having a great season. It's just gonna be marred by the fact that once again they're gonna be out in the second round. But we'll get into more basketball talk as these weeks progress.
Yeah, trade deadline is next week. So, it is what it is, y'all. And don't forget, Saturday night, even though I hate both of their guts, Duke and North Carolina, top 10 matchup. It is what it is. Basketball is in full effect as well. So, something happened out in Santa Clara yesterday. All I thought the whole second half was, is there a doctor on the scene? Because Detroit, I've seen teams choke before. I've seen teams blow leads before. I've seen teams come back.
Yeah.
I don't know if I saw a team in a playoff game give up 17 points in 8 minutes.
They imploded.
And Eminem threw his fingers up.
I was texting the other group chat, shout out to the hot box, when the score was 21-7. And I was like, Detroit's really about to go to the Super Bowl. Like, it's really about to be Kansas City, Detroit in the Super Bowl. And I know I wasn't, being like, I just felt like the way Detroit was playing that game, they were playing the game that we all expected. And it was the stuff that I said, the reason why I picked them. The reason I picked them, they were doing everything that I said why they were going to win in the first half. Brock Purdy was going to throw you 1 or 2 potentially catchable interceptions, threw one. A couple of them hit guys in the hands. And then they were running the ball. They had the gadget plays. They got Jameson Williams involved. I was like, okay, just maintain this. You go into halftime with a 17-point lead. Yes, it's not insurmountable, but it's 3 possessions. So as long as you keep yourself in a position where you're up 2 or 3 possessions for the rest of the game and make them claw back, especially if you can run the ball. Because if you run the ball effectively, you can get like a first down. You can essentially get 2 minutes off the clock every first down. Like if you go first, second, third down, you run 3 plays, get a first down, easily get 2-minute chunks off the clock just because of the 40-second play clock. You're gonna run the clock down. So you effectively run the ball, no crazy passes, incompletions, keep the clock ticking, keep the lead. You put a little panic into the opposing team. You get a little panic in the crowd because we'll talk about Baltimore. The crowd got real quiet. They let the crowd get back in this game in Santa Clara, and it was a wrap. Like the communication for Detroit was off. We talk about the turnovers in the second half. Gibbs looked like he went the wrong way. So I don't know if it was a matter of it wasn't communicated in the huddle or you couldn't hear. And that led to the tying touchdown. It just, when the wheels started to fall off, I'm not sure where the veterans were to like calm people down.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was a stat that I saw real quick. It was a stat that they put on the screen, and it said total number of like the players that have played in championship games, like the total number. So between Detroit, I think they had 3 players, and that their total was 7 championship games. Jared Goff has played in a couple. I think CJ Gardner-Jones was another guy. San Francisco, their total was 73 games for their collection of guys. So it's just like those amount of guys you seen, they rallied around the fact that, listen, we chip at this, we chip at it. And then when they got the lead, it was like, okay, this is it.
Yeah. So when I look at Brock Purdy, I don't necessarily see a great quarterback. And it's too soon to have that conversation. But when I look at Brock Purdy, what I do not see John Kitna. I do not see Brad Johnson. I do not see Kyle Orton. Because all three of those quarterbacks would have lost that game yesterday. All three of those quarterbacks would have lost to Green Bay last week. So, Detroit, they came through first half on the same drive. On the same drive, they completed a 3rd and 12 and a 3rd and 18. So at that point, even I thought the game was over.
Yeah.
My guy Gibbs was getting some yards. Jameson Williams had the long touchdown. San Francisco just looked shell-shocked. And the narratives just wrote themselves. Kyle Shanahan again. He does it in a big game again. Where's your offense? And
that's what I was thinking.
I went on the hot box at halftime. And, me and Ruby Rowe brought up the question, like, hey, he's been there since 2017. I'm not saying he needs to be fired or nothing like that, but I mean, is next year a conversation? Like just from the standpoint of we're here and we ain't getting there. Now, obviously, that's hyperbole to some degree.
Yeah.
But scouts can tell you how fast somebody is. Scouts can tell you whether somebody can get out of a block fast. Scouts can tell you if he's using the proper technique to catch the ball. Scouts can't measure your heart. And that's what Brock Purdy has shown us the last 2 weeks. Everybody wanted him to prove it. Come back from 10 behind. He did it. No Deebo Samuel. Yesterday, came back from 17 down. At halftime,
they were getting dominated.
So even what are we going to say?
Even at 7 that they got was like, it didn't feel like enough. Like when they scored when it was 14-7, I was like, man, Detroit has this game in hand. They're doing everything they wanted to do offensively, and it was like, but he still clawed back.
So that's my question. What are we going to say now? Because even if you want to say, oh, he's got the weapons, he's got Ayuk and Kittle and McCaffrey and Deebo. He ran for 6 first downs yesterday. Eat your heart out, Lamar Jackson.
I think, like I said, I don't want to call it Brock Purdy slander. I just think the argument is forced.
It's dumb.
It's simply because he's playing good football. That is it. Like, no matter where he got drafted, because he keeps talking, he's the last pick in the draft. Tony Romo was undrafted.
Right.
And if Dallas gets a call here or there, he's in the NFC Championship game. So it's not like where you get drafted.
Dez caught
that ball. I don't care. Dez caught that ball. Like, people get argued all they want. He caught that ball, switched hands, and lunged for the pylon.
Yeah.
So he should have been down at the 1. Granted, it's 4th and 1. Maybe you should run the ball and just get the first down.
Oh, yeah. Baltimore. How about that Baltimore 3rd and 1?
Yeah, just like, ahead. I mean, let's just get the first down. But like I said, Dez caught that ball. And with Brock Purdy, like, the argument now is just you can't quantify it. Guys played poorly in the first half. We're going to talk about the rematch, KC and San Francisco. Patrick Mahomes played terrible in that Super Bowl until they needed to score 2 touchdowns.
He didn't play that great last year in the Super Bowl.
Well, he didn't have to make big plays. They were always on the other side of the 50. I think they were always in good field position. So they didn't have the ball for most of it. Then they got the turnover touchdown, had a couple of good punt returns. So he just didn't have that many yards to throw the ball. But when he had to make plays, he made plays.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, Brock Purdy is in that position of where we talk about the 4th and 3 and the 4th downs for Detroit. There was the 4th and 3. Jared Goff was rolling to the right. And I'm like, it's 4th down. You're out there by yourself. You might be able to just run and get this because most guys don't put all of their force into hitting quarterbacks, especially when you're running towards the sideline.
Right.
Because there's a penalty. A lot of guys let up. Patrick Mahomes,
Mahomes last year.
he does that. He does it to people all the time when he gets to that sideline. I mean, he doesn't fake the slide like Kenny Pickett or Josh
And
Allen.
you remember the whole Cincinnati, turning on their teammate last year.
Yeah, but he like Mahomes was like a whole like foot 2 steps out of bounds when you hit him. I mean, he was like already near. He was near a Cincinnati bench player when the dude hit him. But when you get that close to the sideline, and Jared Goff is 6'5", 6'6", you're running out there by yourself. Just head down, or keep your head up, or whatever, like you're gonna throw it. But just know, I'm not letting this ball go. Brock Purdy made that play. Patrick Mahomes in his games make that play. Lamar tends to make that play. Like some of these guys, Josh Allen, Roethlisberger back in the day, sometimes it's like, yo, I know the play calls for me to get this to the third string tight end coming over on this shallow cross, but I can get to this pylon and keep this drive going because we need to convert this. I can't put anything up to chance. I can't put it in the air. Let's go ahead and just get this first down and press on. But that's the thing. Sometimes you just have to make game winning plays, big time plays, and big time moments. Right. I like Jared Goff. It just sometimes I feel like he is just too traditional and doesn't go off script. It doesn't make the play. That New England Super Bowl, New England wasn't playing that great a defense where you only got 3 points when you average 30 on the year. It's like that one play where they got defended in the end zone. Man, run that shit back because it was wide open. Something's wide open when you're playing that much pressure. Like something's wide open on the back end. You just got to be able to make that play. And I think sometimes you just
there's 3 to 4 plays a week in the NFL that we see that where it's usually near the goal line, where the quarterback has a straight line and he will just keep inching to the side, throw it out of bounds. And I'm just like, dude, you'd have had that touchdown 5 seconds ago if you'd have just took off.
If you just feel like, you know what, I got to make this play.
And so as far as, the fourth downs go, Detroit went 1 for 3. Josh Reynolds dropped 1. Like the play you're talking about, there you go, getting rid of half the field again. And when I look at Detroit, it's easy to criticize them. It's easy to say Dan Campbell made the wrong decision because he did.
Yeah,
because he did.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But I'm okay with it because it's Dan Campbell. This is what he does. You do what got you to the dance, because not necessarily in this situation, but sometimes you try to go off script, you try to do something different, and it doesn't work out because it's not authentic and it's not you. So I get why he went for it, because this is how he lives. I wouldn't have done it if I was the owner or somebody along those lines in the power structure in Detroit. I might have a conversation with him and say, hey, Dan, next time, maybe you shouldn't be yourself. But as far as Dan Campbell yourself, this is what you do. So
yeah, but it's the difference but like I said, football was crazy this weekend. We'll talk about, the growing pains. I think Kyle Shanahan finally learned from his 2 collapses. The offensive coordinator Super Bowl with the Falcons when they blew that lead, and he could have just ran the ball, kicked the field goal, and then the Super Bowl against Kansas City, where instead of running the ball again, because they were killing Kansas City running the ball, because they had Mostert coming in motion, getting the ball. They had wide jet sweeps. They were killing them with the run, and they were hitting Kittle on very short passes quite often. And I think one route on like a 3rd or 4th down, Kittle was wide open,
right?
But Garoppolo was looking deep. I'm like, yo, you probably could have popped that 2-3 yards.
He's not a game manager either, just because he turns the ball over too damn much.
Yeah, so he just, like I said, sometimes some guys just make plays in the moment. I think Jimmy Garoppolo was able to just kind of like maintain, and the defense to get a turnover, kind of like young Joe Flacco, where it's like, okay, just keep getting the ball back, and then eventually he'll make a good play.
Right.
Brock Purdy, I think, has a little more than that, but he also has like this gamer, like that gamer heart, like a big time moment. So the moment's not too big for me. I'm about to make this play happen. And Dan Campbell was going to learn that, all right, you'll never go broke taking a profit,
Right.
especially when you had an opportunity to go up. What was it? Because they were 24-10 when they
Uh-huh.
got the ball in the third
Could have went
quarter.
up 27-10. Yeah.
They could have gone up 27-10. That
Yeah.
automatically, at a bare minimum, censors on these 3 possessions. Short of you giving them a safety. They need
And
to
of
get the
course,
ball 3
Jameer
times.
Gibbs, my guy with the fumble.
I mean, fumbles happen. Those kind of plays happen. But because fumbles happen, because interceptions happen, when you're in position to get points, you got to get the points because the fumble can happen anywhere.
Did Brock
You
Purdy
can't
have
get
an
a
Eli
field
moment?
goal
Did Brock Purdy have an Eli moment
where you
with
just
with
blacked
the
out.
ricochet?
It was more of a Detroit moment. It's like it's something that would but the same thing. You need like Hove said, when you play with skill, good luck will happen. Tom Brady had that pass that Edelman caught that went right off of Alfred's hands in the
Yeah.
middle. It was Alfred, Neal, and Deion Jones, like our 3 best defenders that Super Bowl. One guy already had a pick 6. Neal was a big hitter. Jones was causing fumbles all playoff long. And Edelman squeezed in between these 2 guys, diving for the ball as one guy hits it. Like, you need a little lucky play like that, and it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But you have to be in position to make get those opportunities to happen. And I think that's just one of those times where it's just like literally dog, it bounce off your face mask. The still picture is the best part because his hands are like this, right? Like he's ready to
Uh-huh.
catch the ball after the ball had like bounced off his face mask. So the ball was ricocheting off his face mask, but his hands are like this. It's like, where were you looking at? Your hands are here in the ball. So and he had his moment. I mean, is it career defining? Maybe.
We'll see. They win the Super Bowl. It might be.
The perk is that he is still cheap.
Mm-hmm.
He's still cheap next year.
This is what we've learned. This is the Russell Wilson plan. Like spend the money while the quarterback is young. You got Voltron over here, and like we had the Legion of Boom. You had Marshawn Lynch. You didn't have to pay Russell yet. It
Russell was
worked
getting
out.
$800,000.
Yeah, it worked out, and that's
4th
where
round
Brock
pick.
Purdy is right now. So, can it work out?
I mean, I like it. I like it for San Francisco. Like I said, I hear it mainly because I watch First Things First. Nick Wright argument is always
Brock Purdy against his team.
I like Nick. I think he's very cogent analysis of a lot of games. But when it comes to Kansas City, even though he turned out to be right, Kansas City and Brock Purdy is like he has the blinders on. Patrick Mahomes is making him look like a genius with this play, but every week his argument against Brock Purdy loses a little bit of steam. He was saying it with his chest when they lost those 3 games in a row because he had it locked in. He had it locked in when they lost 3 games in a row. And it was like everything that he was saying and all the Jimmy Garoppolo comparisons worked. And then they went on this run. And it was like, all right, Nick, your argument is starting to fall a little flat. And then they got beat by Baltimore. And it was like, see, it's like everyone's getting beat by Baltimore that way.
Right.
Up until that point. So, and Baltimore had gone on the tear of like that 2 or 3 weeks around that game. So once again, the argument kind of grew legs, but then it fell short again.
Mm-hmm.
So when now at these last couple of weeks, he's played poorly in the first half. And he's come back in the second half. This last week, yesterday, it should end any of this. Does he have it in him kind of stuff?
Right.
But some guys have the talent to be front runners. Like Carson Wentz was having an MVP caliber season before he tore his ACL.
Mm-hmm.
But that was his peak. Like I don't think he'll ever get back to that. Honestly, I don't think he'll ever get an opportunity to get enough time to get back to that. Baker Mayfield, another guy, is like that year Skip Bayless talks about it. That 11 games when he went 8-3 and beat Pittsburgh for their playoff win. that might be his peak.
Mhm.
You know, he might not be able to get back to that. But Brock seems to be like, you know what? This might be what he does.
Well, I mean,
By the time by the
he
time he
was in
gets
the
paid, it'll
MVP
be 62
conversation.
million.
Like until that Baltimore game, he was probably the MVP
I
front
think
runner.
I think he was like first or second because Dak. I don't know if Dak went from first to like fourth after the Miami game or after the Buffalo game. One of the games, one of the AFC East games for Dallas, Dak went from
I think it was the
leading
Miami.
candidate. It was Miami, the
Yeah.
leading candidate to 4. I think Brock went from 3 to 2. Josh Allen got up there, and then Lamar went to 1 like
Right.
a week or so after. It was super interchangeable for like about 14 days.
Yeah.
Everyone being prisoners in the moment, and then
Yeah.
pretty much once Lamar got to his spot, then it was like, all right, it's locked in.
So my first summary for this game, when I was like, I gotta write some notes, I gotta do this, saying my first thought was Detroit. First half and second half matched Eminem's career. The first half was great. The second half fell off a cliff. So I mean, it made sense. He's out there throwing his middle fingers up at everybody. CJ's out there waving goodbye to everybody. Sometimes you got to play the game, man. You just got to let it play out. But, as I was looking at this on a serious note,
I mean, he was mad. He was mad. Like it was some
he had to
dude.
be. He had to be.
Yeah, he stood there and took it like a champ, though. But he was mad. Some dude
He
was
had
talking
to
to him in
be.
the second half.
I mean,
Yeah.
what can you do when your team, gives up 27 unanswered? While they have a 17-point lead. Like I said, 17 points in 8 minutes. There's certain things that I think, like that Ayuk play we were talking about.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those moments where, even though, because sports doesn't make sense, even though none of these dudes played on any of those Detroit Lions teams, somebody in that huddle was like, here we go again, or that's so Detroit. And even if they said it, they might have been joking, but somebody in that huddle was like, yeah.
I heard someone talk about Dallas. I forgot who it was. I don't know if it was First Thing First or somebody else. But what they were saying is that it's the same thing with the Cowboys. The Cowboys drought, for like a better word, for a championship game, it's 28 years. Most of their star players are 27 and under.
Right.
So none of those guys were even alive to be even impacted by that or even influenced by it. But because everyone knows that number keeps growing year after year, now you have 23, 24-year-old CeeDee Lamb and Michael Parsons like thinking, are we going to be a continued generation of Dallas Cowboys stars that doesn't get it done? So you get in those moments when it's like, you can fight through and get this holding call, or you can drop in the zone and make this play. You don't know what to do because you're just worried about how's it going to look. Can I get open? We're only down 7-0. So it's like these Detroit players, they've given the Detroit fans more this, past couple years
they've had ever
than they've had in their essentially their aside from having Barry Sanders as your Hall of Fame, like they haven't had much overall success. A lot of bags on the heads with the holes cut out. But to be so close, I don't know what their win index was, but it had to be like 75% when they were up 17 at halftime. Their win probability had to be like 75%.
And I get it. As a Florida State fan, I told you on this show, every year when we play Miami, the first thing I think is don't let it come down to a kick. And, that was 33 years ago, and 32 years ago, and, 24 years ago. And there was a block 19 years ago, but that's what, and not 20 years ago, I was in the stadium when they missed the field goal and Frank Gore won the game in overtime. So like, I get it. Like, you know what I mean? And then when you watch ESPN or whatever you watch all week long, they just show these things. So as a Cowboy fan, I'm sure like you were watching First Take or something and somebody was like, hey, remember when Romo all he had to do was catch the snap and, they go on to the next round.
They go on the next round.
In the catch, like That stuff
And
I
these
take it
guys
crazy.
were in high school when they were like, what was that? That was like 10 years ago. So these guys were in 7th and 8th grade. Once again,
Yeah.
not associated with
Nothing to
the
do with
Cowboys
you.
at all.
Yeah.
And they come here, they put the jersey on. So it's the same thing with Detroit. They saw all their fans crying and posting on social media, and then there's like all these heartfelt stories of
Sorry,
like
Gabby.
guys in hospice care. It just was like the whole city just was like rejuvenated. And then they're up 24/7. They got their king in the building talking about Marshall Mathers. They got their new Viking leader, Dan Campbell, and it's like, yo, we're doing this.
Right.
And we just watched it. It fell apart quickly. Like that
Yeah.
lead was done
It
before
was
the
gone
third
because
quarter
like
ended.
literally it was 24-7, right? I went downstairs to get on the hot box. We were on there for like 25, 30 minutes talking about Shanahan and all that. I came upstairs, and by the time I sat down, San Francisco was going in to take the lead for the first
When
time all game.
when they got it was 24-10. Didn't kick the field goal. 24-17. Gibbs fumbled
Fumbled.
maybe
Yep.
on first down.
Yep.
First or
It was
second
real
down.
quick. It was real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So San Francisco ended with the ball like the 27, 28-yard line.
Yeah.
And I was looking, I was like, are they really about to blow this lead this quick?
Yeah. It's like,
And
no
boom, boom,
way.
boom, 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 touchdown. And I was like, I'm like, that was it. I knew
I
that. I
felt
knew it
bad.
was
I
it.
felt bad for Detroit. Like I really did. Like I've always liked Detroit. I've
Hey, I
never
can
been there.
empathize. I can full
I
on
never been
empathize.
there, but I always feel that Detroit is just one of those cities that's in my heart. You know what I mean? Struggling city, forgotten about sometimes. I care about
Their
Detroit.
airport layout is awful. It's just long. It's just one straight long terminal. Man,
Yeah.
it felt like I was like, I don't need to take the trolley. I should have taken the trolley. It felt like forever walking to get to from one gate to my connected flight. It took
Yeah.
forever. So if you ever go to Detroit, take the trolley. Just don't
Yeah.
even save your time.
No, I get it. And of course, that brings us to my hometown.
They got to get an opponent.
Where the MVP, we talked about this last week. I told you I wanted to pick Kansas City. I was on the brink of picking Kansas City, but I just thought Baltimore was playing so well and had so much momentum. I just couldn't do it. And then there was something that I said in the middle of all that, which was Kansas City has Patrick Mahomes and Baltimore doesn't.
Yep.
That's not a knock to Lamar Jackson. That's not a knock. It's just the truth.
It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make
oh,
any
by the
sense
way,
that he can do what he do. It doesn't make any sense.
I want to get your thoughts on this. So, a couple years ago, you sent me this video. Everybody knows this video where Odell's daddy found 12 minutes of video of Baker Mayfield not throwing his son the ball. So now he's at it again. You with Odell's daddy this time?
Is that because I looked at it? It didn't have a verified check and like the name under it. So I'm like, I never really looked to verify it. I
saw it. Yeah, I saw it multiple places. So hopefully it was real. But
I mean, I don't know what they paid him $18 million. He probably had 18 catches on the season.
Yeah, yesterday he had 3 catches for he had 22 yards, so barely 18.
He was probably one of the most polarizing, like he was an NBA star in the NFL. You don't have many of those where it's just wherever he goes, he's followed. He was at the Met Gala. He was in France all the time at these fashion shows. He was everywhere.
He was on that damn boat.
People would, the boat thing was still dope. The funniest thing about the boat thing is all those dudes were dressed for December in New York City. So every single one of them on the boat was wearing jeans and like furry Timbs and no shirts. They just literally flew down right from the stadium. Now, I mean, listen, you were riding with him all year long. They won 13 games. He's MVP. It just one team had seasoned vets. And my son told me something the other day, and I think it might tie into a lot of these collapses that we see. He told me that since the beginning of last season, every single NFL team has changed at least one offensive or defensive coordinator. Like every single team. It's either lost one, fired one, replaced one, so forth and so on. Even Kansas City. But Kansas City was fortunate to still have Matt Nagy there, still have Spags, and still have Andy Reid. So they had the continuity. So even though they lost Bieniemy, they still had everybody else. Whereas Philly lost both their coordinators and they fired 2 more this year. A lot of these coordinators are going to different jobs. So it's like there's no continuity. You have the Detroit coordinators. Both of them are candidates for open jobs. Did the 2 or 3 hours, a couple of days out of the week you use to prepare for those Zoom interviews or those phone calls, did that take away from your game planning?
Ever since Wednesday, all I've been hearing is Ben Johnson is going to be my new head coach
with the Commanders.
Yeah, that's all I've been hearing since Wednesday. It came out from Boomer Esiason. That was the only place I heard it, and then Saturday I saw it flooding all over the place. So there's something to that, maybe.
It's something to it. So that continuity, and then
but I don't know. They came out on fire though. It's not like they had a slow start. If they had a slow start or didn't play well at all, then maybe. But I mean, they came out on fire.
Yeah, but it's just like sometimes you need to be fully focused, and I think Patrick Mahomes allows everyone on Kansas City to just be focused. That whole New England Patriots do your job. It's just something about when he comes out and he's on, it just looks different. It looks very much like the greats that we've seen in other sports. It looks like Barry Bonds when it's like you can't even get him to swing and miss, or like Tony Gwynn when he's on, or Jeter in the World Series. It's just, obviously Jordan in the finals, and LeBron in the Eastern Conference is kind of dominating for 10 years or 8 straight years. It's just like, or obviously Tom Brady, I think he played in 14 or 15 conference championships in his 21, 22-year career. I mean, that's ungodly. But when you see Patrick Mahomes, like that first drive, I think he went 6 for 6. He threw the touchdown, like the perfect throw to Kelsey. It wasn't even a back shoulder throw. He threw him a back hip throw. I've never, like, legit. It wasn't like if you look at the replay, that ball was not above. When it came down, it was in his hip. Because if you throw a back shoulder, the 6'4" safety can defend it. Can't do anything when he throws the ball to a man's hip and he turns around and catches it. Kelsey 6'5", 260.
Right.
So when that happened, it was like Kyle Hamilton was everywhere after that. I don't know if he was in coverage. He did a lot of blitzing after that. I don't think he was.
They put Kelsey in the slot a lot. So I think that freed up Hamilton to do more things.
But they manned him on because there was Tony Romo was like, "That's the first touchdown he's given up to a tight end all year long. He's only given up 50 yards." It didn't look like it. It looked like he was lost. I know he wasn't lost in coverage, but the throw and the connection was so good in that first drive because Baltimore had gotten stopped, and then Kansas City got the ball and just went right down the field. Then the next drive that Kansas City got the ball is the same thing. Look, I think Mahomes hit his first 11 passes.
It was like 11 or 12, yeah.
So. And the 12th one that got dropped hit dude right in his hands. So he was on, and you knew he was on. So when they got the lead, when they got to 17-7,
it was over
into the third.
But
I think Andy Reid, Nagy, Spags, all of these like, listen, those guys on the other side are frustrated. It was very similar to the 13-3 Super Bowl Patriots Rams. It's like, we don't need to do anything. We don't need to listen, don't force that slant. Don't force that post. No, if we got to punt it, we'll punt it. These guys are not used to not getting their way, and they're not getting their way at all. It's a dangerous game because there was some opportunities there.
For a team that went 3 straight weeks without scoring in the second half, I didn't like the fact that they didn't score in the second half. I didn't like the fact that they only had, 3 yards per play in the second half, 4 first downs, outgained 250 to 90 in the second half. Now, with that being said, Baltimore beat themselves just as much as Kansas City did because they had 3 turnovers. Kansas City had none. But it wasn't just the fact that Baltimore had 3 turnovers. There was a strip sack. Zay Flowers going in for the end zone, or thought he was going in for the end zone. He was a little far away, but he thought he was going in for the end zone. And
He was
Snead makes a great play.
so close, man. He
Yeah.
I think if they stopped it and like measured it with some, he had to be 6 to 8 inches from the goal line when he knocks that ball out
And Snead
at that
makes a great
speed.
play. And then Lamar Jackson treats, the end zone like it's a Hail Mary, even though he was only like 20 yards away. I kept saying it. I kept saying it all day that Kansas City's just eating clock and they're going to make Baltimore press, because in the first half, Kansas City held the ball for 20 minutes and 39 seconds. So in the
But they
second
were
half,
throwing. Like I said, he threw. He
yeah,
had
he was just
the
on.
first half. He had 20 completions in the first half.
Right.
Baltimore made adjustments, and I think Kansas City just say, you know what, we're good with if we get this first down or not. Like we're good with throwing this tight end screen. And
Yeah.
you're saying like you wanted them to maybe get more points and attempt
Something like just because they went through that issue. That's all.
Yeah, but with that being said, I watched because when they got the ball back with like a minute something left in the third, I don't know if it was a punt or whatever. I was telling my son, I was like, they're probably going to run this ball and punt it like right at the end of the third. So when Baltimore is coming back, still down 2 possessions, they're starting at the beginning of the fourth quarter. They ended up throwing a pass and punting the ball. I think Baltimore got the ball back with like 50 something seconds left in the third. But I felt like it was like they just knew. They was like, listen, we don't need to throw any of these routes to give them any kind of momentum. It's like we're up 2 possessions. We know when they go zero coverage, we can beat them. I think they just knew, like, listen, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to make them press.
Yeah,
and they did.
That's all it was. Because I mean, when they got the ball at the 1, when Baltimore got the ball at their own 1, Lamar tried to turn into Josh Allen. And, there was a moment where it was 3rd and 1 that I brought up earlier. It was 3rd and 1. And then he ran like sideways. Then he ran back 4 yards. And it was just like, first of all, you're Lamar Jackson. It's a yard. I just saw you run for like 60 yards earlier. I saw you catch your own pass earlier.
Yeah.
And then Baltimore, between the running backs, 8 carries. Gus Edwards had 6 or so. Like it was just very confusing of what Baltimore was trying to accomplish.
It's like I said, it's the continuity at the coordinator position and the calm. Matt Nagy probably was not like Matt Nagy and whatever conversation he was having with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes didn't go to the sideline in the second half frustrated no matter what. Every drive essentially ended in a punt. And at no point did he look frustrated. He's like, I did my job. We ran off a couple of minutes off the clock.
Right.
We're in good position to punt this ball away because he didn't Kelsey didn't. No one on the offense of Kansas City looked like they wished they would have gotten the ball. They wish they would have moved the ball at all. There was no, granted, a lot of the camera was panning to Lamar because Lamar was showing every emotion. Like he was slamming his helmet, he was taking it off. He was visibly frustrated the whole game. And I think the Kansas City staff picked up on that and just like, listen, their leaders, they're normally jovial guy, happy guy, very relatable guy, just a smart, happy, competitive football player. Is completely flustered. And there's no one on the offensive side of the ball that I think can go to him that's on the field and like reassure him. If Kelsey is losing a little bit, Mahomes can come to him, grab him. If Kelsey's losing on the sideline or if Chris Jones is having a little something, Kelsey can go up to him like, listen, y'all gave him a touchdown. Don't worry about it. We got you.
Right.
Sit over here, get some water, get some oxygen. We about to take 7 minutes off the clock, get a touchdown. You guys are going to come back. I think there's veteran leadership at the highest level on that side with the players that will allow for that calm to sink in. Because Kansas City was doing nothing in the second half, but just playing defense. They were just playing defense all the second half.
Yeah, 90 total yards,
it didn't seem like anybody was bothered by what their responsibilities were in the second half.
And I like Lamar, even though people think that I don't. I just want my quarterback to make a play with his arm as much as he can make a play with his legs.
He was making plays.
And he wasn't playing bad.
The play design was bad. Like they
there
didn't.
was some play design issues. The receivers outside of Zay
wide
Jones
open.
Nothing.
Just run them out. But that's the thing. If that's the case, if Odell Beckham and Bateman and Nelson Aguilar are, excuse me, only good for a splash play, cool. Run them out. You run them on 15-yard routes, because when he was hitting Hill and Edwards in the flat, it was 10 yards. It was one drive where he hit number 43. I just said his name. I'm drawing a blank. Yeah, Hill. Hit him in the flat. He made a little shimmy on Nick Bolton. Boom. 11 yards. First down. I thought it was going to be 2-yard, 3-yard gain, but it was 1-on-1 in the flat.
It looked a lot like what we see Kansas City do from time to time.
And that's the thing. Kansas City learned that after the Buffalo game, that because once again, they're talking about the 13 personnel just running with 3 tight ends. They were like, cool. Our wide receivers, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, they're not really making moves. We got Rashee Rice, little of the guy Mike, and then McCall Hardman every once in a while. And you got MVS. But the strength of their team was the versatility of their tight ends. They ran Blake Bell, Watson, Kelsey, Gray. So you have 4 tight ends that sure-handed, they can block, they can catch short passes. Watson is a bit of a bigger wide receiver type, but he's not going to take the top off defense.
Right.
But he can get you those stick routes. Like the
routes.
Shout out
to MVS real quick too. You know what I mean? Like dropping the pass on Monday Night Football and
squeeze that thing like a firefighter catching a baby out of a burning building.
You know what I'm saying? Kids, take note out there. You know, like mistakes happen. You will get a chance to redeem yourself.
If you act accordingly, as we transition to acting accordingly, Kadarius Toney was drafted pretty high by the Giants and traded away for a 5th-round pick rather quickly. He went to his Instagram live talking about beep 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 beep. Y'all know this. I ain't hurt. Anyway, just like MVS could have done that, but he probably went to the lab and was like, "All right, Patrick, sorry I dropped that pass. What do you want me to do when you see these routes? Like, listen, man, I want you to keep. If you and man-to-man in 0, just keep coming across. I'm gonna throw it in the middle of the field. It's gonna be you and the ball. Right. Trust me, I'm gonna need you at some point in this playoff run." And I think he stayed professional because he had those same drop.
He had a big catch against Buffalo last week.
He had a couple. I think he had a big catch against Miami in the cold. He had one against Buffalo. Just like, but Kadarius Toney, I don't know what the conversation were inside the building. Obviously, they weren't favorable conversations because what he expressed on his social media was not. It was an admirable conversation about the Kansas City Chiefs. But that just goes to show you, it's like, listen, you're on a championship team. And you are needed. They needed you. They probably had, if his attitude.
And you were a big part of why they won the championship.
You are like, man, if you already got a ring, you about to get another one.
Yeah, he had the big punt return.
The biggest punt return in Super Bowl history. And it's like, are you resting on that solely? Like, oh, I did this last year and I have to work at it more. Like, even if you weren't that good of a route runner, they'll just get you the ball shorter. Like they were trying to get in those drag routes, but he kept letting them pop up in the air. It's like, come on, dog, you got to figure out something. And he wasn't playing. Like I said, I haven't seen him on the field since that Buffalo game.
So what's up with my man trying to hit Patrick Mahomes with the JBL clothesline from hell?
Yo, it was accidental. It's hard to hide because his hand is so big. And it was taped up, so it looked like a boxing glove already. Because he had his wrist tapes, he had the big gloves, the big lineman gloves. So it just looked like a Floyd Mayweather sneaky left hook. But he hit him right in the face. Yeah, and a couple of those penalties. But like I said, the game just kind of when I saw Lamar was frustrated early.
Early, yeah.
He was frustrated early, and it's like then. Where was the adjustments? And I don't know because they kept throwing long. Like he threw 37 passes.
30.
20 for 37.
Yeah, 20 for 37. Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes still threw 39, but not much in the second half. Like I said, he completed 20 in the first half,
Yeah, he
got
completed
10 in the
30
second half,
altogether. Yeah.
and he probably got 10 for. He probably tripled his yardage total on that one completion to MVS in the fourth quarter. That's just like it's strange that I picked against him and watching it play out. It's like,
You're like, I knew
but,
this.
but logically, like I told my dad, I was like, listen, I'm a logical thinker. I picked logical reasons why I thought Baltimore win. I thought Baltimore played. I think they played their best game because that's their team style. It's
Right.
not anything new. It's like it's power run game, smart quarterback play, strong defense, excellent level linebacker play. That's what Baltimore gives you. That's what they gave you ever since the buses came into Baltimore with the new team.
Well, I always thought, well, I ain't gonna say always, it was just yesterday. I thought that if Zay Flowers would have got that touchdown, I think Baltimore would have won the game.
Nah, because I think they would have done if they were. I think Kansas City would have made it. Would have taken advantage of the man-to-man coverage because that dude Millette, number 10, he was in the pregame scuffle. So they
Right.
were targeting him all game. I think he got hit with a bit of a cheap shot, a little blindside block, but he ran up in their huddle at the beginning of the game. So
Right.
they picked on him a few times. Like I said, they got the little blindside block, rocked him a little bit, put him out for a couple plays, and then he was a target that gave up the. So I think Baltimore would have gone to some kind of aggressive trying to get the ball back because they still were pressing. Because it's not like they were. That was just like a good play, and I think Kansas City would have done they would have got Kelsey involved, and they would have done the dink and dunk, dink and dunk, dink and dunk. But I just think they were good with not giving Baltimore any momentum. And when
So
they
with
didn't, when they lost it, it was like, okay, we don't need it. We don't need to help them.
so with that being said, what are your thoughts on the Super Bowl?
I wish I could go to Vegas because it's gonna be litty.
Yeah.
I like it. I like all the rematch talk we're gonna hear. Um, I mean, as we'll get more statistical analysis, things like that. I just want to know. We've seen both quarterbacks make winning plays in crunch time from early on in their career. Brock Purdy is still in his early stages. Hell, Mahomes only in 6 years, 4 Super Bowls in 6 years. Considering it should have been 5 if this dude's head was a foot back. And you never know. His head's a foot back. They go to that Super Bowl. Tom Brady leaves New England after that season and doesn't go to Tampa Bay. He goes to another team. He tries to go to the Raiders or something. And Mahomes goes, he could have gone to 6 straight Super Bowls. Think about it.
Sure, there's a multiverse where he did.
Think because he had just the head over the line. That game's over. That Kansas City wins that game. And if Chris Jones holds on to Joe Burrow and they get a sack like midway through the fourth, Cincinnati's punting the ball back. They're going back to that Super Bowl against the Rams. So just those 2 plays. Because they had a big lead against Cincinnati, and they had the game won against New England until the penalty for the offsides.
Right, yeah, because there was a pick on that.
They were taking, it was the ball got tipped. It was picked. They're taking these games over.
Yeah.
So that's the crazy part.
The game of inches.
That's the crazy part. So
my first thoughts were, oh man, Andy Reid got 2 weeks. Spags got 2 weeks. That was my first thought. But then I thought to myself, well, Kansas City does have the 28th ranked rushing defense, and Baltimore did nothing to try to take advantage of it at all. So I would imagine with a guy like Christian McCaffrey versus Gus Edwards, just name wise, you're going to get Christian McCaffrey the ball. He's going to demand touches. The game is going to dictate that he should get touches. So I think it's still going to be a very close game. I know somebody, I ain't going to say no names, said
I got a different score in mind.
Yeah, said 2 scores. But no, I think that what I'm not prepared for is the aftermath either way. because if San Francisco loses, we're back to the Brock Purdy thing again, and we're back
I
to.
don't think so.
I think so.
I don't
Depending
think
on how
so
it looks.
because we just saw the defense. Because we just saw what the defense did to Lamar Jackson. We saw what the defense did to Josh Allen, and we see what the defense did to the Miami Dolphins. So the Kansas City defense, it's not like they're playing a team like, for instance, if they would have played the Falcons in the NFC Championship game, the Falcons have a good defense. They don't have a dominant front. If you play poorly against a team that isn't dominant up front, then it's like, okay, you're making mistakes on the back end. Like, you're just making bad throws. You're throwing in a bad coverages.
All right,
But
Instagram.
if you get a team like Kansas City that can just beat you up front, very similar to what Baltimore did. Baltimore dominated the game up front in the second half. It's just in the first half, Kansas City just came out quick. Boom, 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 boom. Kelsey was ready. It was hyped up. The smelling salts, whatever they was on in the tunnel, and they came out like gangbusters. So I think if Brock Purdy does struggle, he'll struggle because he's going to have a dude in his chest causing these deflections. It won't be like he's just throwing in the coverage against a poor defense.
I think what does concern me is I have not recognized San Francisco's defense since the playoffs started.
Facts. That's the same thing I said to my son. That's why I picked Detroit. I was like, they haven't looked like the way people feel about them.
Like, I don't know if the Baltimore game, because it was mostly the defense. They got 5 picks that game. Purdy threw 4 of them. So like, I don't know if that game did something like psychologically.
No, I think what San Francisco's defense is, it's good, but it's getting praised like it's great. They have talent, like with Greenlaw and Fred Warner.
Yeah.
They have talent everywhere, but that talent doesn't show up every week. Nick Bosa was essentially neutralized against Philly last year. They just ran right at him. And that happens often. Then you have Gregory, and I saw a report today that Chase Young,
I was just going to say that
because they feel like they said he takes plays off because
yesterday on the Hot Box, that's what I brought up. When we were talking about what is San Francisco missing, and it's like, because they were down, at the time. It was like, well, they're not missing a lot. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe another corner or something like that. And
when you're that good up front, you could get pressure. Like, that's why Kansas City plays so well. It's like they get pressure up front and they have good young athletes on the back end.
Yeah, I was going to say Kansas City has probably here it comes. Kansas City probably has a top 2 or 3 corner in the league. You know what I mean? So you could do that. So when the Giants beat the Patriots the first time.
Yeah,
the first time.
There was like 6 or 7 guys they were just throwing at Tom Brady. Spags.
Right. So it didn't matter what the corners were doing. It didn't matter what the corners were doing back there. You know what I mean?
They didn't have to work.
But with Kansas City, you have Chris Jones and the guy's name that I still can't pronounce. You got them coming through, and you probably got
this.
Yeah, you probably got. I don't want to
get the African guy coming off the right side.
I don't know if I want to say the best, but a top 2 or 3 corner tandem in the league, if not the best.
McDuffie and Snead.
Yeah, McDuffie and Snead. And remember, Snead was the one that made the play on Zay Flowers.
And the backup got the interception. So Edwards goes out of the game. They bring in another safety. He gets the pick on that throw that Lamar threw in the triple.
Yeah, the Hail Mary.
Yeah.
From like the 20 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just, I don't know. I just feel like I thought Detroit was going to win because I felt like they believed in each other. I think San Francisco has all the pieces. I just felt that Brock Purdy was going to throw you, like I said, a couple of those little layups. And I think against Kansas City, it's pretty likely to happen because the front is big. Brock Purdy, like this, they got him listed as 6'1". You get that pressure up the middle with, I think Chris Jones is like 6'5", 6'6". That's a big guy to just be pushing right up front. And that's his move.
Right.
Like, he'll do the swim and he'll do the bull. And it's like, either way he's impacting, he's either in your lap or you got Trankful that's blitzing or Nick Bolton. I mean, like, what Kansas City can do because of their defensive front, because of the way Spagnuolo just kind of like locked in. He's 5 years as defensive coordinator. I haven't heard his name come up as being a head coach again. Maybe he doesn't want to do it. Maybe that's the perfect guy to have. As a guy that's like, I've done the head coaching thing. I don't want to do it. I just want to just get super creative with these young athletes. And that's what he's doing. Because that pick, it had like Bolton was underneath, and then the other guy who attempted to grab him, my dad says is a hold. I'm like, listen, the dude ran right by him. He tried to grab him, but he ran right by him.
Yeah.
And then the pick is like, just like the way they just played Lamar, and there was like everyone we were watching the game, they were like, just run. And I was like, I think they got a spy on him from the second.
I didn't think they had. Well, it might have been in the secondary, but most of the game, I didn't think there was a spy.
Either it was Tranquil, because that's why those little flat routes were open, because like you got to leave a guy that's kind of like just doing this. So I think a couple of times I saw it to where they had Reed, because Reed got a tackle on like a 3rd and 1. I think that's what you're talking about. It was like 3rd and 1. And you saw he said he was going sideways. So by the time he decided to break for it, Reed came from the secondary to make the tackle. I think technically it was a tackle, maybe it was a sack, but that turned into 4th and 3, and he threw it to Odell Beckham on 4th and 3 when it was like 4th and 3 from their own like 20 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but he made that play from the secondary, so it looked like on that play he was spying.
I don't think they had a spy on very often during that game.
They had to look, because he would bounce and slide,
or like you're saying, it wasn't a traditional spy in the way.
It probably wasn't underneath. It was, but it felt as if, because they rushed 3 a few times, so that's 8 dudes in coverage. It's like, all right, someone's got to be spying Lamar Jackson if you're only rushing 3 guys. But it seemed like so many routes were just long, deep routes, and like these developing routes, and it's like, get him on the edge. Like, he's the type of quarterback you can get on the edge. Like, Jared Goff is probably not the quarterback you put on the edge. You might not want to roll Derek Carr and like cut off half the field.
And they still do it anyway.
But with a guy like Lamar, you get him on the edge. Kyler, some of these guys, Josh Allen, you run some of these guys, get them on the edge, give them, run pass option in that traditional sense, not the whole fake and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get 3 or 4 first downs. The Kansas City would have to change their defense. Baltimore never put them in a position where it was like, all right, we need to do something to make them switch it up.
Right.
Like when Zay Flowers got beat, he was being covered by a linebacker. They were like, yeah, we're not doing that again.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, not only did he fumble on that drive, it was all the same drive. He fumbled, got the taunting penalty,
the taunting,
and I think there was a play where he ran the wrong route too.
So it was a taunt. So he had the taunt. So he got the catch. Like, I think it was like 50 yards. Then he got because he did 3 things. He probably could have got away with one. He did the push when he stood up, spun the ball on him, which is literally every referee's coming to get the ball. So that's going to attract attention. And then you flexed on him. So it's like,
you could have got away with all of that minus the ball.
You could have got up, flipped the ball to the ref, flex to your teammates, talk shit to him, walking back to your huddle. And it would have had the same effect, because I don't think you doing that to him made him feel worse.
Right.
I think he would have felt the same way about giving up the yards. But now you got the ball at the 10.
Yeah, and now he has to switch getting the penalty.
So now you give him time, you gave him space, because from the 10, now his mindset and the whole defense's mindset has to switch up, because you have Lamar Jackson at the 10-yard line. The fans are back in it. Zay Flowers is getting open. But from the 25, we can do what we've been doing this whole field and just give him no running lanes, play a tight zone, and see what happens. So, yeah, I think that was bad. But then at insult to injury, when he was upset on the sideline, he was banging his hand.
Oh, yeah.
He hit his helmet. That's when he cut his hand. So I thought he cut his hand on the field. He cut his hand, showing his frustration by hitting his and he ended up hitting his helmet, so he cut his hand.
Yeah. And
that
was just it. Baltimore, just like you said, I don't know if you were actually talking about Detroit when you used the word, but to some degree, Baltimore imploded too. Everybody's got a plan until they got punched in the mouth. Kansas City came through with a forearm shiver and Baltimore just never recovered.
Yo, they were being petty. The Justin Tucker. I don't what was Justin, was he kicking? Was he warming up from the
He was
goal
warming
line?
up, kicking, and then Kelsey threw the
Like
little
Lamar
hold.
uh Patrick Mahomes on one of his, like he was throwing a pass, like he was doing a
Yeah,
little warm up on his step through. He kicked the thing over,
yeah,
like he slid. And he was like, so he kicked it, and
yeah, and all of
then
that was
Tucker set
before
it
the
up again.
scuffle. You know,
Yeah, and then the scuffle happened.
yeah.
So I don't know. I just think it was a master class in why Andy Reid is gonna win the Super
Well,
Bowl and ride off into the sunset.
well, you know that back in the day, right when we were little kids, there was always like the little bully that was trying to take everybody's lunch money, all that kind of stuff like that. And
Yeah,
I remember, like what I was being told was like, nah, you got to get the bully before he get you, or when the bully pop off, just punch him. Like, don't even say nothing.
yeah,
Don't tell him no. Just punch him. And
yeah.
that's what Kansas City did. That's what
I
Kansas
was
City
small
did.
my whole life. I never had a bully because if it looked like I'm gonna hit you.
Yeah, Baltimore is used to bullying teams around, pushing them around. Mahomes and it was so fitting that it was Mahomes because he's the dude that you think wouldn't necessarily do that type of stuff, but it was just showing you like we're here for business. Like we're not here to be punked today. We're doing the punking, and I think they just set a tone.
He sees, like, you can tell their level of comfort inside the lines. You can just see it. You can
Yeah,
see that we're good. And I think it's a matter of, I don't even think they have to reassure each other. I think it's just something you can just see it in his face. You can see it in his body language. And something I noticed, me and my dad would talk about this before, like have our weekly, football chats and other sports chats. Mahomes is a pretty like big dude.
yeah, yeah.
When
He
he was
is.
standing next to Kelsey, I was like, oh, because like I know he looks like a Roethlisberger. He doesn't have like that real cut figure. Like Lamar looks like just strong, physically cut. Like Josh Allen looks like way big. I think
Yeah.
but he's like 6'5", 6'6",
Oh,
240.
I
He
like
probably
that
walks.
Utah.
He probably is probably like 245 throughout the season. That's a big dude. But I
Right,
think Mahomes was when he was standing next to Kelsey, I was like, oh, so he's pretty solid, hard to bring down. So when he does have to scramble for 4 or 5 yards, he can run through the initial arm tackle because
right,
he's run up
right,
to a corner that's probably 20 pounds lighter than him.
right.
So like that was something that's kind of surprised me because I see them talk side by side, but having them on stage both like wearing like the white jerseys, I was like, oh, these dudes are
Yeah.
pretty solid.
Yeah, but I think they set the tone early. They just let Baltimore know that you ain't gonna bully us.
Yeah.
And so
It was effective.
as we get back to the Super Bowl, obviously part of the key here is can San Francisco get pressure? And obviously, I wouldn't advise San Francisco to just straight up blitz all the
I
time
wouldn't do it.
or
I wouldn't
a
blitz.
lot of
I
the
wouldn't blitz
time,
at all.
but you just got to get home with your base, sort of like how we were used to Baltimore doing. You just got to get home with your base and you got to hold coverage and hope that MVS is having a bad game or something along those lines. I think that Brock Purdy is going to be under pressure. You know,
Absolutely.
so decision making. Back what you were saying. Hey, he's going to throw you one or two that you
He's
know.
going to throw you. He's going to throw you one or two because he is a rhythm thrower. He throws a lot of perfectly placed passes. But if you, as a defensive team, and you study film well enough, and you recognize these route combinations, you might be able to jump it to the point where he has to go to his second or third read. And he seems to progress very well. It's just that when the pocket collapses on him, he is on the smaller side, like probably a
Right.
little bit bigger than Drew Brees. So I don't know if he can do like what Lamar can do is quickly drop back and reset the pocket because he moves from that 1 point to 5 yards back so quick, 7 yards back so quick, and then side. So he can do that movement. Tom Brady was one of those guys. He just was good at manipulating the pocket, but he was so big that when he threw the pass, he was already, he's 6'5". So
Right.
he's already, he's like, I can slide in this pocket and create this little crease to get this pass down to Edelman. Whereas Purdy, 4 or 5 inches shorter than Tom Brady, he has to get around Chris Jones. He has to potentially beat the blitz. They blitz the safeties a lot, so that's athleticism. So is McCaffrey going to be used to pick up a lot of blocks, or are you going to try to get it to him quick? And if you do, does that blitzer tip one in the air, similar to the one Lamar had to catch himself?
Right.
It's like those kind of plays, because there was a couple other routes, like Bolton had an interception go through his hand yesterday and then he was underneath that route that got intercepted in the end zone. So he seems to be in position when it's time to catch these picks.
Yeah, we
And then
remember him from the Super Bowl last year.
just making
He
plays.
should have been Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, it should have been 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that fumble should have
I
counted.
put like $10 on him because it was like 51. Like I would have won like 5 G's if they would have called it a touchdown.
I'm trying not. How much? So I know that right now you're leaning Kansas City.
Correct.
How much of that? Now, like I truly think that you're leaning Kansas City, but how much of Kyle Shanahan factors into why you're leading Kansas City?
I don't think Kyle Shanahan makes poor decisions as a head coach. I just didn't think the Super Bowl. I thought he should have each Super Bowl he should have ran the ball. But was that 7 years ago from the Atlanta one, and then now 5 years from the 4 or 5 years from the last one. I'm leaning because I think the player more likely to make an ill-timed mistake is Brock, because Patrick and the Chiefs have experience on their side. It's not like they have like a completely different team from the last time they won a Super Bowl. They won a Super Bowl a year ago. So many of those guys made plays in the Super Bowl. They were there. They felt the pressure. They've handled this 2 weeks between the championship round and the Super Bowl before. So they know the routine. They know the schedule. They can think back to life in February 2023 before the last Super Bowl. And I think Brock Purdy would, like I said, just that the tip pass at the line of scrimmage on one of these screens, or a pass kind of thrown ill-advised into the middle of something, a couple of crossing routes, IU, precise timing routes. Somebody on Kansas City jumps it, like Bolton jump, like you said, just like one of those plays happens, and I think it happens after a Kansas City touchdown. I think Kansas City gets a touchdown, puts a little bit of pressure on because 7-0, and then they get the turnover. They go up 2 possessions, and you saw what they did to Baltimore 2 weeks ago. Like that's immediately going to happen. If they go up 2 possessions, the immediate thought is going to be, all right, let's simplify this so we don't turn it into a Baltimore did. What happened in Baltimore is like they should have stuck to what their original game plan was. When they got 7-7, then they got the 14-7. They should have like, no, we good. Let's stick to what we were doing. You just got a touchdown, and they gave up on their plan.
Yeah, they were acting like they were down 21, and so what I'm looking forward to is the wide receivers against the corners. We just talked about it, Snead and McDuffie against Ayuk and Debo. That's what I want to see, and I think that's going to be the determination, because, like I've been saying, no quarterback has thrown for 300 on Kansas City this year. I'm not saying that Brock needs to throw for 300 for San Francisco to win, but I want to see, can these receivers get that separation, because Ayuk usually does.
Ayuk gets the separation. Debo isn't your traditional route runner. He's more
right.
of a football player that you just put out there. Like, I think you could line him up as tight end and goal line, and he'll make a great block or fake the block and get out in the pass. So I think that lack of, I don't want to say dynamic, but I don't know if the threats are everywhere.
Right.
Compared to
I get what you're saying.
to the capability of Kansas City's defense. I don't think they're going to be like, oh, we are so concerned with X. The same way, like, yeah, you're concerned with Zay Flowers, but you weren't really concerned with Nelson Aguilar or Odell Beckham or even Bateman.
And I want to see which San Francisco run defense shows up. Because like we always say, Kansas City can run the ball. They just don't always do it enough or not balanced enough.
And they
So
got real vanilla in the second half. The
right.
first half, they
So I
had
want
that
to
play where
see
Kelsey looked like he was going to throw the ball. Like it was like they had like Patrick Mahomes rolled, flipped it to Kelsey. A tight end leaked out. Kelsey faked like he was going to throw it, kept it, ran, and got a first down. They didn't do anything that wasn't just shotgun.
Yeah.
I think they were shotgun the whole second half, inside zone runs. I think they kept it super vanilla. So San Francisco, they don't have any recent film of any, like they did a trickery against the Raiders that cost them 2 touchdowns. The Chiefs did.
Right.
I don't think they've done anything close to that since.
And
So
then,
they got at least 2 or 3 of those plays lined up.
And then Pacheco is one of those little frustrating dudes. Like he just runs hard. So even though he's little, you gotta expend energy to get him down. You gotta have effort to bring him down. Like some running backs come through and you get an arm on him and like I got him.
Yeah.
Pacheco's not that type. So, San Francisco, like I mentioned it last week, their running defense throughout the regular season, 3rd in the league. And we've seen them the last couple of weeks not look so great. So can San Francisco put Kansas City into 3rd and longs, even though you're playing against Mahomes, who can convert 3rd and long, but it's obviously still going to be harder when you're trying to go 3rd and 8 versus 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3. So how many of those 1st and 2nd downs can San Francisco win? And then lastly, Spags, because it's just a chess matchup, because I feel that Andy Reid can win his matchup with Wilkes more decisively than Shanahan can win his matchup with Spags.
But like I said, that matchup requires, like I said, I'm not banging on Brock Purdy. I just feel that Reid knows his quarterback is not going to have wide eyes,
or like Cassidy told me, Bill, you coming through with the frog eyes.
Yeah, he's not going to be out there like Rashae Carwell, his eyes bulging out of his head. And if Kansas City scripts their first 15 plays, Patrick Mahomes is going to know exactly what each type of defense can do to take that play away.
Right.
Like without a doubt. They've been running it, the language, everything for, his 7 seasons that he's been in the league. So I just feel like that level of information, if you think about it, he's at 14 playoff wins. I think he's behind Tom. Tom Brady is 35.
Tom in Montana.
And I think Montana's 20.
I think he has 16.
16. Okay. So yeah.
Because San Francisco's only like 9-11 in the playoffs or something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah. So, I'm just thinking about.
He passed.
I like the play calling, but what we saw from Detroit yesterday, Detroit was getting whatever they wanted running the ball early. Like they were just making things happen, running the ball early. It was frustration on San Francisco's side. Yeah, they tightened up, and Detroit helped them get back into it.
Right.
I think I would be a little bit more. If Detroit would have won, I still would have been leaning Kansas City. Even though I know it's ironic I didn't pick them throughout their AFC playoff run, but I think against the NFC team, like I just feel like they match up a little better because, like I said, San Francisco's dominant front I haven't seen for a couple of months.
I was really hoping for Detroit, Kansas City, just for the whole. This was the game that started the season. This is the game that ends the season. So I thought that was one of those just gee whiz. 10 years from now, you're at Buffalo Wild Wings.
That was the other script. They threw that script out.
Yeah. But
so
10 years from now, you would have been at Buffalo Wild Wings, and it would have been, what 2 teams have played in the first regular season and last regular season or Super Bowl? That would have been a trivia question. But yeah, I think that I like what you're saying. I think that Kansas City we came into the playoffs with questions about their offense,
Yes.
but they haven't been outside of the Buffalo game. They haven't necessarily been forced to play their best offensive game. And even then, it wasn't necessarily like Buffalo made them do it. Like
if McCole Hardman doesn't fumble at the goal line,
yeah,
then
they
you
went
win
by
that game 34.
34-24.
Yeah.
But the question that I have is if San Francisco is able to have success, can Kansas City keep up over the course of 4 quarters? Because now we're up to 4 games now this season, at least, that they haven't scored in the second half. So if halftime is say 17-14, either way, doesn't even matter who's winning.
Yeah.
Can Kansas City throw punches back, which is a dumb question because they have Patrick Mahomes.
Correct.
You know what I mean? They have the better quarterback. So why would you ask that question? But I shouldn't have to ask that question, but they went 4 games without scoring in the second half.
Yeah, it's the strangest greatness run we've ever seen from a guy. And it's like he puts that narrative of, oh, you need these kind of players around you. Like, now, if you have a special player, and we've seen it in this generation, with a guy from Akron, when you have that guy, you can make things happen. San Francisco is a lot like Golden State, where it's just like you look at them, they have 2 MVP finalists on offense. They have a perennial defensive player of the year in defense. They have Chase Young, who was a number 2 overall pick. They got Randy Gregory, I think it was number 5 overall pick. Then they have Fred Warner, who there's a play. I seen a highlight of him. He's in the middle of the field. They throw a pass to the flat to the running back, and the running back is making a cut behind a block, and Fred Warner jumps like a missile and catches him in midair. And it's like he did it in like 3 steps. Then you got Drake Greenlaw. So you just have these players all over the field, and it's like they are a lot like the Golden State Warriors, where it's just like this firepower is ridiculous. But is your star Steph Curry gonna be able to hit the big shot at the end when it comes his way?
Yeah, and, Steph finally hit the shot the other night, even though Draymond should have got called for that screen, just for LeBron to come down and hit the free throws. Saying I'm sorry, Steph. Saying finally hit the damn shot.
Might as well have fun with the regular season. They're not going to make it far.
Yeah, that's true.
Postseason. So
that's true. But yeah,
Northern California has the 49ers to cheer for. So it's an embarrassment of riches up there.
But yeah, I think I'm leaning Kansas City early as well. But I can see a path where the 49ers win this game. I just think that as I go through life, I've learned sometimes the simple answer is the correct answer. So Kansas City has the better defense. Kansas City has the better quarterback. Kansas City has the better head coach. They have the better defensive coordinator. So I mean, you give San Francisco Shanahan over Nagy, I guess. I'm not,
But Nagy, that's the thing. Nagy is, I guess, technically the offensive coordinator.
But it's really Andy Reid, probably.
Andy Reid. I think Andy Reid still calls the plays.
Right. So there you go. So Andy Reid better than Shanahan. So
so what you have there, though, is you probably have like Nagy and Mahomes can like just kind of piece it together on the sideline while Andy Reid does his head coaching responsibilities while the defense is on the field and he's paying attention to what's going on out there. So and it's a trust there. Like Nagy understands that he was with me before he got his job and he came back. So it's like those two got to handle it. It was my knock on Arthur Smith. It's like you can't do both because you don't have the experience to maintain it all. Hence why your quarterback is always making red zone interceptions because he doesn't have someone who knows the game plan talking them through it in live action. And I think that was happened with Lamar. It's like you have an opportunity to just settle down. And
Right.
I don't know if that occurred. Like, I don't know if there are offensive coordinators in the booth, but like I said, I personally rather have my guy on the field. I want to be able to look into his eyes and be like, what do you see? What do you see? Or a wink or like a pinky thing, like, yo, let's do this, something. But I'm like, you can't do that if you're in the booth.
And there's also the fact that San Francisco has been living very dangerously throughout these playoffs. And, you could argue Detroit was young. You could argue Jordan Love was young. Maybe the moment got a little too big. He made the Cardinal said mistakes throwing it across the middle like that.
Rolling to the right, throwing it back to the left.
Right. But
1 out of 10 times.
The way that San Francisco has been playing these last 2 games, living on the edge like that, they absolutely cannot do this.
The games look very different. Watching the Kansas City-Baltimore game, the Kansas City-Baltimore game looked like 2 well-coached teams. And I was texting the group, the Hotbox chat, like, yo, this is going to be one of those games, like one of those games we talk about, like the Super Bowl last year, or like the Philly. It was going to be one of those kind of the Joe Flacco throwing a deep bomb in Denver to get them to the Super Bowl. I felt like it was going to have that kind of back and forth, last team with the ball, needing to score to win kind of situations. And that's what it looked like. When I watched the Detroit-San Francisco game, it felt like a Week 11 game. Like the way Detroit just kind of moved the ball. I think they scored in like 2 minutes.
I don't even think it was that.
It was like 90.
It was like 3 plays.
Yeah, it was like 90 seconds to 2 minutes. It was somewhere in that range, minute and a half to 2 minutes. So it was like, it looked different. It didn't look like a team in the championship game. And then as you see it play out, not taking the points, going for it on 4th down, the bad throws, it felt more like a team that was out there playing a game plan, but not playing the game at this with the understanding the brevity of that moment. Whereas Kansas City was, of all the 4 teams, Kansas City looked like they understood this championship moment. And like I said, go right back to the New England Rams game. Some teams just know this is working. We don't need to do anything, because what Dan Campbell said was,
we don't got to win our way. We just got to win.
Yeah, we just got to win. He was like, I didn't kick the field goal because I wanted to do it our way or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing.
Right.
But it was like, you just got to, like, I want to get the edge back or the advantage back, something along those lines. I'm like, tie the game up. That's your advantage. Because I was talking about this with my son. If the kicker for Green Bay makes the field goal and it's 27-20, San Francisco getting the ball back at the 25-yard line, because most times they're going to kick it, get a touchback.
Right.
So now you got the ball at the 25-yard line.
75 yards to go.
75 yards to go. Young quarterback, home playoff game. He's been playing poorly this whole game for the most part. And now the defense is out there like, yo, we got to keep them out of the end zone. So you can gamble. Second and 8, I might send a blitz. But when you get the ball at the 40, and it's like, we can't give up anything. We're down. We're only up 4. This guy's hot, and the momentum's completely different. But kicking that field goal, making that field goal changes the whole entire dynamic of the game. I think Green Bay wins, because he would have to make just extra throws. He just would have to he couldn't just do the check down on the handoff because it's too late in the game. He would have had to have gone for it. And then we're going to talk about this real quick. Why did Detroit run the ball when they needed to keep all 3 timeouts?
I have no idea.
Like,
I have no idea.
And that's the thing, is like, it's not a game of surprises.
And the dude that called that play about to be my head coach.
The dude that let it go through is the head coach. Like, no. Like, listen, we have Laporta. We got one of the best pass catching tight ends in the league.
Yeah, Iowa tight end, yeah.
From Iowa. We got an Iowa tight end. We throw the ball to the Iowa tight end. Like, that's what you do. You draft the guard from Northwestern. you get a tackle from Ohio State, and you throw the ball to Iowa tight ends. That's what if you have that on your team, that is what you do.
Right.
So just in on top of that, like you needed to keep those 3 timeouts. Like those were your diamonds right there. You needed to keep that currency. It's like I said, it just felt
See,
like
and I think
it
that I
felt like a
wonder.
week 11 game. Like it felt like the moment was too big for so
Well,
many
that's what I was
people.
going to say. I wonder how much of that is Campbell not being a traditional coach as far as like being an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator and then climbing up where I think he was like an offensive line coach or a defensive line coach or something like that.
I don't think it's a coaching thing. I think it's I use the analogy of gambling. I like to gamble. I like shooting craps when I go to casinos. I'm willing to, depends on what kind of trip I'm on. Like if I'm in Vegas or something like that, I'm willing to go $200 up to $300. Like $300. If I lose 300, then it's like, okay, this is definitely not my night.
Not my night. Yeah.
Campbell was at the point where he is already at 400, 500 on that 300 limit that he already preset for himself. And when he got to the point where he could just make this simple bet, just play the pass line, pay the odds in the pass line, play the hard ways, keep it simple, try to get your money back a little bit at a time. So take this field goal to stop the bleeding, take the field goal. So it's like, all right, take that $60. Nah, he gonna take this. I'm gonna go get another 100, and I'm gonna put it on this field bet. It's a one roll bet.
Right
but if this 12 hit, that 100 goes to 400.
Right.
And then it's a one roll bet. So 4th and 3, man, instead of kicking this field goal, get me points, I'm a gamble because the payout of the gamble is more exciting and more impactful to our sideline versus we need to get the score to 27-27.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because if we give them the ball back and we don't hold them to a field goal, now we're down 2 possessions. We haven't held them to a field goal and a few drives.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like that was the thing. And he said like he wanted to get the edge back or something like that. It's like, just get the points.
This is what he lives and dies by. It worked out for him. It didn't work out for Brandon Staley. Like this is just what it is.
I don't see Staley. I don't think Staley's ever made. Staley would go for 4th down in places where it was no man's land.
Yeah.
Like he wouldn't be on the fringe of the field goal and not take the field goal. He would just be at the 47. And it's like the other team has no timeouts, but we're up 2. But if we get this first down, we could just kneel the clock out. It's like, man, it's 50 seconds left. Let the clock
put him at the 5.
Put him at the 5 and
go 95 yards. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of stuff that Staley was doing.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so Detroit, I know, I've been making jokes a little bit tonight, but no, this is the best season in franchise history. Saying I know it sucks. It's going to be painful, but
absolutely.
You just gotta live it up. Try again next year. A lot of teams don't get back.
Atlanta made the playoffs the following season after the collapse, and they beat the Rams, and they had a game against Philly.
And they're already talking about an extension for Goff. So there you go. So we'll see how that goes. But on that note, y'all, Sports Reports is ordered. You know what I'm saying?
Thanks for tuning in our second live show.
Yes, sir. Do us a favor. Do some liking, some subscribing, some sharing. It's all free. Ain't going to charge you a dime. Damn sure ain't going to charge your grandma a dime. You know what I'm saying? But he is world famous, world class, top of the line.
Absolutely.
Foot on your neck.
100%. Size 12.
Snatching your heart, snatching your soul.
Don't bring feelings to a fact fight. Let's go.
Yes, sir. I am 2'5", but more like the first half of Eminem's career. You know what I'm saying? We love you all. We will be back on Thursday.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Might be time to talk some basketball.
Ooh, association.
But you know what? We about Scooby-Doo. And guess what? America, we love you. Peace.